Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mainstream Indie Music channel. Yes, we are reviewing another pop punk band. I do realize for you guys, I might have gone a little overboard with them recently, but besides indie music, pop punk for me, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, was such a huge part. And I think a lot of these bands just did not deserve the acclaim that many of their peers did. And MXPX is no exception. You know, for all of the pop punk bands that came out of the 2000s that were big, think of bands like Good Charlotte, Yellow Card, and then eventually the Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco, so on and so forth. There were so many pop punk bands that just did not get the acclaim that those bands did. And I'm not even trying to hate on the bands that did get the acclaim, because all the aforementioned bands that I talked about, I love all those bands. But MXPX is an example, and of course, as you've seen the title, one of their most popular songs, Heard That Sound, specifically is what I'm going to talk about, especially you Burnout fans of the video game. You know what I'm talking about. That Burnout, I think it was Burnout 3 was where this came out from, and so many other Burnout games had so many amazing soundtracks, including Motion City soundtrack was one of them. But Yellow Card got a lot of love on those video games as well. And before I get to the video game and before I get to the breakdown of the song and the lyrics of the song themselves, let's talk just for a brief moment about MXPX and where they came from. So these three gentlemen had been playing music together all the way back from middle school when they were about 14, 15 years old. They started to play music together. And the band name, because they have such a unique name, actually came from their original band name, which was called Magnified Plaid, because of one of their bandmates, seems like excessive love of plaid clothing. And so that's where they started. And then what happened was their band name wasn't fitting on posters that they would put up around town to promote themselves when they would play. And so they started to just put MP. And for some reason or another, the drummer was the one that did the artwork, and he didn't like to just put the period for the abbreviation of the word. He liked to put X's there instead. And eventually, they just saw the look of the posters over and over and over again, and they said to themselves, MXPX seems like a pretty good name. And here go, that's how the name was formed. Now, one other thing about MXPX as well is a lot of times they are grouped into the Christian rock scene. And the reason why is because when they were teenagers, promoting the band, and I believe this was more so along the lines of when they were in their late teens, so like late high school, maybe right after graduation, they themselves were going around, and when they were there touring, they were saying that they were a Christian rock band. They did have some mentions of like Christian themes in their very, very early music, but it was nothing preachy. Maybe they would name drop Jesus in every once in a while, but nothing, that they would go overboard, I guess you could say, with. In later years, and especially now since they've been on tour for so long, they do not identify themselves as Christian rock anymore. I know a lot of people say, those that grew up maybe in very heavily Christian households, say that that's actually how they got into MXPX. If they were kind of limited into the music that they could listen to, ironically, MXPX was put into a lot of like these Christian stores because they said, hey, these guys are pretty clean, they don't swear, they claim themselves to be Christian rock bands. So that's kind of how they got that moniker. Like I said, they don't really claim to be that anymore. They released, like any normal band, they've gone on tour. A lot of times they got into the Warped tours, and those tours growing up, those pop punk big tour bands and those big tour events, I guess you could say. And they still release music to this very day. They're over 10 albums in at this point. They've only taken brief, I guess you could say, breaks. It's kind of cool. Mike Herrera, who is their lead singer and uh, kind of like their writer, kind of leader of the band, is very interesting. I might even make a video about him specifically one day. But he himself tours with Goldfinger and other pop punk bands of the time as well. Now, this leads to the last part of the video, how this all kind of fits together. MXPX got another big push and kind of found a bigger audience in promoting their music in video games. One video game which I'm going to definitely make a whole video on at some point is SSX3, where their song Play It Loud was featured. And then, like I said earlier, Burnout 3 had the song Heard That Sound. Now, the song itself is not overly complicated, as you can picture a lot of pop punk bands and songs being. You know, you imagine a lot of kind of 3-chord song breakdowns, a lot of power chords. And that is definitely the case with this song. The lyrics of this song, too, is kind of like a love letter from the band to their fans over playing kind of smaller venues, but they would have huge turnouts where he'd say, I know I did research on this, and one fan said that at one concert, they said this song was inspired by looking out at the crowds and seeing that it was so packed that people could barely even turn around without kissing each other. That's how crowded their shows were. And so this song is kind of an ode to the fans of the band. There's kind of no deeper meaning to the lyrics. I mean, in fact, several times during the verses, it talks about people being stuck outside of the show, not being able to get in and see them. But despite kind of like the simplification of the song, it's a really cool breakdown, really cool vocals. Like I said, a positive message. And one cool thing, too, is they toured with a small symphony band at the time. The name of the band is Five Iron Frenzy, and they kind of even put out a single of their live performance of the song where they all played together. So pretty cool. They add some horns, some percussion in it as well. If you love ska, you know, that might even influence you a little bit to check it out. But to this day, I wouldn't say it's one of their biggest songs, but definitely a song to check out, especially if you have never heard of MXPX before. And this is where I bring it over to you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. And what do you guys think of MXPX? Have you heard of them before? Have you played the video game? Let me know in the comments, and I will check you all next week. Peace.